Well, good morning. It's Jay Bauman here with First Orlando. I serve as the pastor of our Brazilian ministries, and I've been with the First Orlando team for a little less than 1 year, and it's been a great privilege, and I am bringing this morning's morning thought. I was really reflecting on the importance of the scriptures over the past couple of weeks, and let me just share a story with you. When I was 15 years old, my first job was as a tour guide. And I had a job as a tour guide for a historical site in the upper Midwest. And what I would do is I would take people, the tourists, through various little houses that depicted how life was in the early 1800s. And that was my job. And so before my first day in the job, my first day in the job, my boss came to me and he gave me a big manual and he said, listen, you have to learn all the facts in this manual. You have to know them inside and out for you to be able to give tours. Well, I was 15 years old, and quite frankly, I wasn't interested in learning everything, and I thought I'd just kind of learn some of it to get by. And so I did. I learned some facts, enough to start giving tours. I started giving tours, and, people seemed to like the tours. Seemed like everything was going well. And eventually, they started asking me some questions, like what did the people eat, and what was a typical day like, and what did the people wear? And I didn't have answers to all the questions, so I just kind of started to make things up. Well, about 2 months in, my boss said about 6 o'clock one evening, he said, listen, I'm going to go on your tour tomorrow morning. And I started freaking out because I knew that I didn't know the manual, and I knew that I didn't know all the facts, and I knew that if he went on my tour, it was going to create a problem. And I didn't have enough time in one evening to memorize everything. Well, sure enough, he went on my tour, and the next morning, after the tour, he said, you know what? You really don't know enough to be giving tours. As a matter of fact, a lot of what you're sharing doesn't make a lot of sense. And he fired me. Now, the reason he fired me, frankly, is because I was confused. I had been spending so much time telling stories about things that weren't necessarily true, along with some half-truths, along with some truths, that I didn't even know the difference between a truth and a lie. That's one of the reasons. And I also just didn't take time to learn the manual because, frankly, I just wasn't interested and I was kind of lazy. Now, I'm not an example of this, okay, anymore, I would hope. But I will say this. How many times we do this with the Word of God? How many times after we become Christians, we decide that the Word is not all that important? How many times do we decide to not really put a lot of energy into Bible study? How many times do we start to develop our own theology because we don't like certain things in the Bible? So we start to pick and choose what we like or what we don't like, and base the whole theology on that instead of running with what's been generally understood for over 2,000 years in terms of Christian theology. It's problematic when we do that. When we don't know the manual, it's problematic. The Word of God is a lamp unto our feet. It's a light unto our path. The Word of God is Christ. It's Christ's Word to us. It's something that we need every day. It's our daily bread. And so we need to know the manual. We need to know the facts. And when we don't know the facts, we're going to start making things up. And we start making things up, we're all going to be confused. You're going to confuse others, and you yourself are going to be confused. And so my encouragement to you, especially during this quarantine where the vast majority of us have more time, is to know the Word of God, to spend time in the Word of God daily. Redeem the time that you've been given. Redeem the time. Don't just spend time binging on Netflix. Don't just spend time doing house improvements, having some nicer things in your house, or fixing things up. Those things are great. But what difference does it make if we fix up our entire house, but we don't work on our soul? The Lord has called us to spend time in the Word. He's given us a unique opportunity these days to spend more time than normal in the Word for most of us. So let's take advantage of that. Let's remember that His Word is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. And let's walk on that path. Let's walk on that path so that we're glorifying Christ, so that we're not making things up to believe what we want to believe, and so that we understand truly what the Word says about everything and about particularly our lives. Let's study the Word, let's be students of the Word, and let's grow in the Word together. That's my morning thought for us this morning. Have a great day.